Alright, hello, my name is Andrew, and this is my presentation on Brazil. Um, Today I'll be talking about the geography, the history, and the culture of Brazil. And here's some facts about Brazil so far. Brazil is the largest country in South America and covers nearly half of the continent. And throughout Brazil's history, it was colonized by Portugal and shaped a lot by African and indigenous people, who all helped create the country's rich culture. And it's called the Giant of South America because of its huge size and leading role in both land and economy. All right, so when people think of Brazil, they may think they think about the beaches, about the soccer players, and the endless rainforest. But there's way more to Brazil, and for example, Brazil's huge size has allowed many different natural areas to form, keeping the countries connected to large natural features. There's a lot of places that have been untouched in the rainforest, and the rainforest also has had little city growth over time. And yeah, this is a lot to learn about the geography, and that's what I have. And now going into the history of Brazil, um, this was a significant part of history for Brazil, which was the arrival of the Portuguese and the colonial era. And on April 22nd, 1500, the navigator Pedro Alvarez claimed the land for Portugal after landing near what is now Porto Seguro. And you know they gained their independence in 1807, um, by the Portuguese royal family known as the House of Bragança. And when on September 7th, when Portugal tried to take back control, Prince Pedro stood by the river and he shouted independence or death. And that was the moment they called the cry of Ipiranga. And while nearby Spanish colonies became republics, Brazil stayed a monarchy under the Empire of Brazil until it became a republic in 1889. So, basically the mix of Portuguese colonizers, enslaved Africans, and indigenous people have shaped the history of Brazil, and today's culture shows this special blend. All right, now let's get into the culture of Brazil. There's a lot to learn, a lot to talk about when it comes to the culture of Brazil, because they have a lot of um, events like such as soccer, carnivals, and they just have a lot of pride, and brings up people together. This culture, and over time, it mixed with Portuguese traditions, African music, and later influences from European and Japanese immigrants. And many of the most famous festivals and celebrations come from a mix of different cultures. And also, there's a thing that is a carnival that they do over there, and this is one of the most famous events. And it started as festivals before Lent and grew to include African drumming and dancing. And that's basically it on what I have for Brazil. There's a lot more to learn about it. There's a lot of really unique things that Brazil has to offer, and their beautiful country and their rich history. It has a variety of traditions and a blend of influences that shape everyday life. A lot of different types of food, and festivals and sports that bring people together, and just understanding the history of Brazil and the culture helps us see how its history continues to influence and inspire modern Brazil. And this is my reference. All right, and thank you.